Good afternoon. We are here today with Professor Dame Carol Black, the patron of the World Scleroderma Foundation, and it's a great pleasure to ask Carol some questions that may be very important for our future, for the future of WSF, and also for the patient with scleroderma. So, Carol, welcome with us. And I would like to ask you to share a personal story about how you started to think about scleroderma and what moved you toward scleroderma. Because, in all our stories as physicians, there is always a beginning.
Well, the beginning, as for most physicians, was a patient, a 26-year-old woman admitted at night with kidney failure and terrible hypertension. And we struggled all night to control the blood pressure, but we couldn't. And on the ward round the next morning, I asked the professor, what did we do? Because we'd used every drug we had. And it was so shocking when he said, "There's nothing we can do. She'll be dead within 3 weeks." Well, she was dead within 10 days. I had never seen scleroderma in the flesh before. I'd read about it. So that was a defining moment for me.
So, observing such an aggressive and disease that there was no way to be controlled.
No, and I probably thought it was only diseases like cancer that you couldn't control. But here was a disease of a young woman, only 26.
So very young woman. So this was moving probably. And this gave you also the opportunity to start thinking about scleroderma and how difficult it is and challenging.
And to want to do something about it, above all.
Yes. So this is important because this pushed you toward scleroderma. And did you think how it could be your future for scleroderma?
I always hoped it might be, but I never knew whether it could be until I had done more training, because I was right at the beginning of my medical career, and I had to do, 2 years of general medical training. Then I had to choose a specialty. So it was only when I was in the last part of my specialty training that I decided I would do research in scleroderma.
Because you were also facing the other internal organ involvement, the lung, the heart, the GI system, so the whole complexity of the disease.
It's a really complex disease, but at that time, I think it would be fair to say renal scleroderma was just probably the most rapid and frightening, because if you couldn't control the blood pressure and you couldn't get a kidney transplant for these people, therefore it was so fast, even faster than pulmonary hypertension.
Absolutely, yes, yes. So this is something that we as physicians have experienced in those years, you before me, obviously, and but now it's a rare opportunity to see a scleroderma renal crisis. It's not so easy. So this demonstrates that we have done something, Carol.
Yeah, we've changed renal scleroderma. It's rare, thank goodness, because we have an antibody that gives you an idea of who might get it. And we know aggressive disease is also a signpost towards it. So we monitor people so much better.
Very good. So, and what do you think? Now we are in the World Scleroderma Foundation, and we are so happy to have you with us. So your presence is a great comfort. And so, how do you think that in this scenario and perspective, how could you see yourself inside the foundation, and what would you wish? Let's say, do we have a dream for the future, as you had the dream in those times?
Well, I, of course, had a dream that was contained within one country, where I was living, where I was working. So my aim then was to set up a national service for scleroderma patients in the United Kingdom. But of course, by its very name, the World Scleroderma has a very different aim. It's to get scleroderma known about, looked after well in as many countries as possible. It has a global aim. So that is quite much bigger than thinking about one country.
Absolutely. So we are getting beyond the borders of United Kingdom, and we are looking now at a more obviously challenging way to look at scleroderma in different countries, in different continents. For instance, in Asia, scleroderma is a little bit different, similar but different than we have in Europe, or is in respect also to the United States, and we have also difference between white and blacks. And I have seen this in United States because I could not understand sometimes when I was looking what was white was black and and vice versa. So we have really now a more broader vision. And what do you think could be our um, achievement in the future? Because it's very broad. It's very broad, but some tasks should be clear and simple. And transporting your experience that you had in UK, how do you see the future in
I
the
think
after world?
one of the most important things is education of
Very good.
the young physician, the young surgeon, whoever's going to look after a scleroderma patient, nurses, physios, so that we can have a level of education that enables them to really work towards a high standard of care, because that would be a leveling up of the care of the person. I'm very conscious that some investigations are easier to get in some countries than others, and I suspect in some countries some of the drugs we would like to see used aren't always easy to get. So I think we've got to start by what can we do for everyone, and I think education is something we can share with everyone. But then I think we should be fighting to make sure that what is available in the most highly developed countries can move to those countries that probably have less economic stability or resources. It's a matter, I think, of doing it bit by bit.
Very good. So this vision of the education is absolutely simple, clear, but this is the basement for the future because educating doctors, but as you said, also nurses, physiotherapists, and I could say also patients to educate. So at the end of the day, we may call this it's a whole team of people in order to enable the a better care of scleroderma patients
Indeed.
in the next future. So this means also uh, involving the patients in our task, in our goals. And I think that here also the link with the FESCA and the European Federation of Scleroderma Association could be a, a, an added value. So do you think that this is also an important task that we have to liaise as much as possible with patients and I would say even with their families?
Oh, it's crucial. I mean, after all, the patient should come first. And if you listen to patients and really try to understand what they want, actually, you'll be a better doctor, because patients differ from each other, and you really need to be able to sort of listen to the individual and make sure the care you're going to give suits that person and their family. So you can't lump them all together. It's a question of really listening to the individual person. It's what we would want if we were sick. I want to be heard. I want to be listened to. And I want my views to be incorporated into my care.
So this is very important because we should learn how to put our feet in their shoes.
Yes,
And
indeed.
to understand, and education should be in particular given to students when they are starting the studies of medicine. To understand, to listen, as you said. It is so important.
You shouldn't do things to people. You should do things with people. So, you know, a young doctor tends to think they know all the real science and they know what to do, but you've got to take your patient with you.
So this is something that we should start to thinking also about teaching our students first and reminding our doctors also as a second step, and never forgetting this. And as you said yesterday, never give up, because it's so important. Never give up your profession, your dignity, and respecting the patients, trying to understand how much they suffer and how much they need our understanding and our capacity to listen to their problems. And in this endeavor, the problem of unmet needs, it's still today something we have. Do you think there are some specific unmet needs that we should take care of in the next future?
Well, I think we have medical unmet need, of course. I mean, for most internal organ involvement in scleroderma, we've improved it, but I don't think we've solved it. So I think there are physical unmet needs. I think there are huge emotional unmet needs, because for some people, they're facing a fatal illness. And then there are family needs, because I know very well from my own practice that scleroderma could cause marital breakup. It really made it very difficult often. If it was a female patient, they perhaps had great difficulty in caring for their children, and in carrying on at work, etc. There are many, many unmet needs. And I suppose for some people, there will be spiritual unmet needs, which may be of importance to them.
Absolutely. So this is your analysis now of the unmet needs. It's clarifying very, very clearly that we must think about this. Because, sometimes as doctors, we are pushed toward the technicalities of drugs, of diagnostic tools, and sometimes we don't have time. We don't have time. And we hope that someone else will do this area, but in reality, we should coordinate this area. Even if we don't do this, we should have other professionals with us. So what do you think of the world of professionals around us, Carol? Because, I come from Italy. This is a very hot issue now.
I think you need a team, and that team, yes, needs some medics in it, and you need nurses, but you perhaps need social workers, people who can link to the social needs. You might need a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I think you need to put into your team the things that, if you like, a scleroderma patient and their family will need. And yes, doctors are important, but they're not at all the only thing you need.
Thank you, Carol. So just to conclude our conversation today, we spoke yesterday about research, and I was reminding in the memory how I started and which was your contribution to this, and how much this was important for me as a young doctor in those times. So this is not forgotten. So what do you see for the future of the foundation, the commitment for research?
Well, research is just so crucial because there is no branch of medicine, there is no disease which you can take forward unless you have solid, high quality research. It just isn't possible. And I know that frustrates patients because it takes a long time, particularly basic science takes a long time because you must repeat it, etc., etc. And even clinical trials take longer than we would wish. But it is crucial to make sure we have the next generation of young doctors, nurses, other scientists, anyone else who wants to do the research coming along. And that, I think, is a huge function for the World Scleroderma Foundation.
So you may say that we may improve also from this point of view, and we could increase the funding in the next future, because I think, I believe, and I hope that this can achieve the task you have given now. So let's increase more and try to take new forces, young people with us in research, clinical and basic research, either doctors and also nurses.
Well, and just basic scientists. And, you might find there'd be a very interested physiotherapist or a psychologist. I think you need a multifaceted research approach. And I think you must try and get patients engaged in supporting researchers.
Yeah. So thank you very much to Professor Dame Carol Black. And we thank you also for listening to us. It was a great pleasure to have you here, Carol. Thank you very much indeed.